Welcome to our NAT pool or dynamic lab dynamic NAT. Same sort of topology as before. We've got our 192.168.1.1 over to our 1.2. Static route on router B, which we've already configured to send all traffic, whatever it is, back to router A. We've got loopback 0, 172.16.1.1. And what we're going to do is add loopback 1, which is another network. We can have hundreds or thousands of loopback interfaces or networks on our router for testing before we put them into a production network. The other thing down the bottom is here we have a NAT pool. Actually, the first address in the pool should be 10.1.1.1 up to 10.1.1.10. So just a couple of things. We just need to add this second loopback address onto router A. Show IP interface brief shows us our loopback 0 and our serial. So interface LO1 or loopback 1, IP 172.20.1.1. So this is in a different network. You don't need to know shut loopback interfaces. The other thing is we need to add the IP NAT inside to this. Now I've actually reloaded the router, so I'm going to go into loopback 0 and add IP NAT inside to that, and then interface serial 0/3/0 on this router. Okay, so that's the IP NAT outside. Otherwise, as I said before, none of the NAT will work. Now we need to configure our NAT. So it's dynamic NAT, and the configuration is slightly different to the static NAT. So you can do IP NAT. The question mark will work on the exam, but you've got different choices: IP NAT inside, outside, and pool. So IP NAT pool, and then it's going to ask us what name we want to give our pool, which we could call it anything. I'll call it internet. It's case sensitive, so if you refer to this later on, as we'll have to, then you need to use the exact same type, exact same format. So our pool, if we remember, starts 10.1.1.1, and then we need to specify the end address. So 10.1.1.10, because you might not want to use every address that's in the 10 network for whatever reason. Network mask. Now you can type the word net mask, or you can type the network mask 255.255.255.0. So if I type a question mark here, our net mask is 255.255.255.0. Alright, so we need to add another line of config here to decide what the NATing is going to take place. So it's a little bit difficult to remember, so it's just a case of typing it out a few times and doing the labs over and over again. So IP NAT inside, source, and then the next one should be list. So this is basically saying what access list do you want to source this NATing from. It's a little bit annoying the way they choose these words for the commands, but unfortunately it's just what we're stuck with, really. So we've got to refer to an access list in this source list. It could be standard or extended or a named access list. I'm just going to create access list 1. IP NAT inside source list 1, and then pool, and then we've got to refer to our pool, which is called internet. And then the next thing is we've got a choice of another command here, which we're not going to use this time, but just bear in mind that there's a command that we can put on the end called overload. There you go. So we referred to source list 1, so we need to create access list 1. If we go back to our diagram, so what is it that we want to NAT? Because a lot of people get this wrong. We want to NAT the networks 172.16 and then whatever really, and then 172.20 and whatever, and you can tighten it down to subnets within networks, which something they could test you on. So access list 1. We're permitting a network, and the network is 172.16.0.0, and then we use wildcard masks, which you sort of come to in more detail in the ICND2. So we've got to permit that network. Access list 1 permit, and we'll just permit the 172.20 network as well. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so we've done everything we need to do for our NAT configuration. The other thing is, I just wanted to point out the reason why I actually did this might help to know. We've got a pool of addresses, so I need to test the addresses that have been used in that pool. And if I've only got one IP address here, then it means I can only test the pool once, and then I'll have to do the pool will expire, clear out the entry. But then if I do another ping across the network, it will probably use the same address. So I'm going to source a ping from 172.16 and 172.20.1.1 each, and hopefully we'll see a couple of addresses in the pool being used. The other thing, I don't think I mentioned in the last lab, but you've always got to make sure you can ping across your interface. If you can't do that, then nothing's going to work. Now NAT won't work until it sees a match. So if you do a show run here, so I've got my IP NAT insides on my inside networks, I've got my IP NAT outside on my outside network, I've got my pool configured, which is 10.1.1.1 up to 10 with my network mask. I've created a name and referred to access list 1 and the pool name, and then access list 1 I'm permitting the two networks that the hosts are attached to. So last thing is debug IP NAT, so we can see NAT is occurring, and then I'm going to do an extended ping. So ping enter, target IP address 192.168.1.2. Extended commands yes. Source, I'm going to have to type the IP address. Just keep pressing enter and it will do the ping, and you can see a NAT occurring there. Well, it looks like the traffic isn't coming back, so that would indicate, let me just go back onto router B, just do a show run here. Alright, I did put a static route on here, but maybe I might have reloaded it in between, so it's easily fixed. Compt IP route, same as we did last time basically. Send all traffic to anywhere out of the serial interface. So what I'm going to do is I'll source that ping again. Oops. Target IP address 192.168.1.2. We want extended commands yes. It's got to go from, see my NAT's expiring, 172.16.1.1. Just keep pressing enter, and we can see our NAT is happening nice there. We'll do another ping quickly. 192.168.1.2. Extended commands yes. Source address 172.20.1.1. Just keep pressing enter, and we can see NAT happening again there. Alright, show IP NAT trans for translations. Alright, so we can see our first address on the pool, it's ICMP. The first address, 10.1.1.1, was translated for the 172.16.1.1 network. That was the destination. So we had our, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pings. Next, the second address was used quickly because the first address was still in use and it hadn't expired. You'll probably see it expire in a moment. And for our second network, there we go, the addresses are expiring. I'll just type all to turn off all debugging. Just saying our second network, host on a second network there, use the second address in the NAT pool. If we just go up, you can actually see your NAT debugs taking place there. Okay, so that's the end of the lab. That's our dynamic NAT.